Welcome to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of sources here today, and we're going deep into some really big moves and, frankly, debates happening in AI right now.
That's right. We're aiming to cut through the noise, pull out the key stuff from these materials just for you.
Exactly. We'll look at, the staggering money pouring into AI infrastructure. Think CoreWeave.
Billions, yeah. And also some maybe less expected players popping up, like Nebius Group.
Right. And then there's the whole tussle over regulation federal versus state. That's heating up.
Plus, why suddenly everyone's talking about data centers, the actual buildings.
So we're basically unpacking all that, trying to connect the dots from these sources. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, first up. The money. The AI infrastructure arms race. CoreWeave is making headlines, and the numbers are just wow.
It's pretty eye-watering. The sources say they're planning to spend somewhere between, what, $20 billion and $23 billion
This year alone?
this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that cash is basically going towards building data centers and buying up all the AI tech, everything needed to run them.
The sources use this analogy like it's akin to buying a fleet of jets. Just
Yeah.
gives you a sense of the scale, right?
It really does. And remember, CoreWeave, they're backed by NVIDIA, and their client list, according to the sources, includes giants like Microsoft, OpenAI, big names.
Yeah, serious players relying on them. And their finances reflect that demand. I mean, stock up 200% this year.
And that's after a 420% revenue jump in Q1. Plus, they've apparently got a $25.9 billion revenue backlog. It's just explosive growth.
Okay, but here's the twist the sources point out. Even with all that, their shares took a bit of a dip recently.
Right. And the thinking, based on the analysis in the sources, is that investors are maybe getting a little nervous about the sheer cost.
$20 billion will do that, I guess.
Exactly. The risks highlighted are, the massive capital expenditure and also maybe being too reliant on just a couple of huge clients.
So it's like, how long can you sustain that kind of hyper growth built on such concentrated bets? It's a big question.
It really is. It shows even in this AI gold rush, the cost of building the infrastructure itself is a major factor, maybe even a risk.
And while CoreWeave is making these huge moves, the sources also spotlight another company, maybe less familiar to people, Nebius Group.
Yeah, Nebius, definitely not the household name, compared to the others, but they've got some significant backing. Jeff Bezos is mentioned as an investor in the material.
Okay, Bezos backing, that's interesting. So what's their angle? Same space?
Pretty much. They're also in the business of providing computing power for AI, focusing on that core infrastructure layer.
The source had a nice way of putting it, called them like a new chef in a crowded kitchen. Suggests they might be trying something different.
Could be, and apparently some analysts are quite bullish. One prediction mentioned was that Nebius could go parabolic. So high expectations there.
And their focus is meant to be on, what, scalable and efficient data centers?
That seems to be their pitch, according to the sources. Scalable and efficient. And their emergence, alongside CoreWeave's spending spree, it tells a story.
Which is?
Well, it shows that the demand for AI compute is just so massive right now that it's actually opening doors for new companies to jump in and challenge the incumbents. Maybe with different tech, maybe different business models.
So putting these two together, CoreWeave's billions, Nebius rising, what's the takeaway for you listening?
I think it highlights the sheer scale of resources needed to fuel the AI tools you're probably already using, the costs, the risks involved in these huge bets.
And that the whole foundation of AI isn't like set in stone, it's still shifting, new players are coming in.
Exactly, and this intense focus on the physical stuff, the data centers.
Yeah.
That leads us to something else you might have seen trending.
Ah, right. Hashtag AI data centers. So that's not just tech geeks getting excited, it's tied to this news.
Directly. The CoreWeave spending, Nebius popping up, it's put a huge spotlight on these buildings. People are talking about them on social media like X.
The sources mentioned a quote, didn't they? Something about gold mines.
Yeah, this X user said, data centers are the new gold mines for AI. CoreWeave and Nebius are digging fast. Captures that feeling pretty well.
But it's not all positive buzz, is it? The sources mention mixed feelings online.
Definitely mixed. You've got the excitement about the growth, the innovation, absolutely. But alongside that, there's real concern being voiced about the costs, obviously, and also the environmental side. Powering these things takes enormous energy.
And that's becoming a bigger part of the conversation. These data centers, they really are the unsung heroes, maybe, or now the sung heroes powering everything.
From chatbots to self-driving cars, yeah. And as AI keeps scaling, the pressure to make this infrastructure sustainable, that's only going to grow. It has to.
Okay, so that's the physical side, the infrastructure, the money. Let's shift gears now to the rules, the governance of AI. Our sources point to a pretty significant clash happening there.
Yeah, moving from the hardware to the rule book, so to speak. Specifically, the sources detail this proposed GOP bill in the U.S. Congress.
And the goal of that bill is basically to stop states from making their own AI rules for 10 years.
That's the core idea described in the material, yeah.
Hmm.
To centralize AI regulation at the federal level and essentially block states from doing their own thing for a decade.
And this is a big but from the sources, more than 30 states already have their own AI laws or regulations. This isn't just theory.
Exactly. They're already tackling specific problems. The sources give examples like using AI in hiring and making sure it's not biased, or in lending decisions, real-world stuff.
So this federal proposal is running straight into existing state action, and there's pushback.
Oh yeah, significant pushback. The sources quote critics saying it's like handing the keys to AI companies without a safety net. That's pretty strong language.
Definitely. And it's not just advocacy groups.
No, the sources note that advocacy groups and even some Republicans are arguing against it, saying that state and local laws are actually crucial. They argue you need that local perspective to handle specific community risks.
And this whole debate is kicking off now because more states are jumping into the regulatory game. Right.
That seems to be the trigger, according to the
Right.
sources. As more states move to regulate, the pressure for some kind of federal approach, or federal preemption in this case, builds.
Okay. And just to be really clear for everyone listening, we're laying out what the sources say about these different positions.
Precisely. Our goal here is just to report on the debate as presented in the material provided to us, not to endorse any particular side, just giving you the landscape.
Understood. So why should you care about this federal versus state regulatory fight?
Well, fundamentally, it could decide how AI is overseen or isn't overseen in ways that affect you directly. The forces kind of frame it as a trade-off
A trade-off between what?
between potentially streamlining things for innovation with one set of federal rules versus potentially losing that local focus on issues like fairness, bias in algorithms that might impact your job prospects or loan applications, things like that, things states are already trying to address.
So it's that classic tension, national consistency versus local tailoring and maybe stronger protections.
That really seems to be at the heart of this conflict, yeah. How do you balance those things for a technology like AI?
Okay, so let's just recap where we've been in this deep dive. We started with the frankly mind-boggling investments going into the physical backbone of AI, the data centers, the tech.
Yeah, billions from companies like CoreWeave and new players like Nebius entering the fray. Big money, big risks.
And then we shifted to this really intense debate over who gets to write the rules for AI. This clash between a push for federal control and the reality of existing and growing state-level regulations.
Right. Two huge forces shaping AI right now.
Yeah.
The incredible speed of building the thing and this much slower, more complex argument about how to control it.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, about that tension. You have this breakneck pace of innovation fueled by all that cash we talked about.
Billions driving it forward.
And then you have the slower, much messier process of society trying to figure out oversight, grappling with fairness, ethics, local impacts.
Yeah, how do those two things, the speed of tech and the pace of governance, how do they interact? And what does that mean for the AI that actually ends up in your life?
That's a great question to leave people with. How does that balance, or maybe imbalance, shape the future AI you'll interact with?
Definitely something to keep in mind. Maybe think about what part of this discussion stood out most to you today as these trends continue to unfold.